favorite classic here by R.L. Stevenson. So, the author Robert Louis Stevenson was born in Edinburgh in 1850. He was a novelist, a poet, and as well as a British essayist. He struggled with poor health since his childhood and survived from gastric fever in 1858. So his childhood was this a kind of survival mode. So he attended schools in Edinburgh from 1858 to 1857. When his health improved, he joined the family profession of civil engineering, and though he enjoyed the outdoor life of an engineer, his health didn't permit it. So he switched over to law and finally to writing. Kidnapped was published in 1886. So now one order of popularity can be established for Stevenson's books. Stevenson we remember, as a man who contributed some enchanting writing in English literature. So, what could the book be about? As the title says, kidnapped. A kidnapping. So, it's a special abridged and illustrated script classic edition. It's been completely reset in a size and style that's designed for easy reading. So let's take a look at some of this. There are summaries and other stuff coming up later. Meanings, etc. So in chapter 1, my troubles began with my father's death. That morning in June in the year 1751, I left his house at the age of 17. I felt that I would be sorry to leave Essendon, but I must. Now on the way I was met by the village minister, Mr. Campbell. He said, "Hold on, Davy lad, I'd like a word with you." I told him, "I've been meaning to say goodbye, sir." "So listen, Davy, my boy," Mr. Campbell restarted his speech. "Before your father died, he gave me a certain letter which he said was yours when he died, Davy, and to start you off to the house of Shaws. So where he came from, where he said you might return." So I inquired, the house of Shaws, what had he to do with that? So Mr. Campbell smiled and said, "Why, the name of that family, Davy boy, is the name you bear, lad. Balfour of Shaws, an old and honest house, although perhaps now run down." I read the envelope and told him, "It says to the hands of Ebenezer Balfour, landlord of Shaws, and will be delivered by my son David Balfour. It sounds too good for a poor lad like me. Should I go?" Mr. Campbell firmly said, "Yes, lad. Cramond is about 2 days' walk near Edinburgh. I would hope that they would welcome you. But remember, Mr. Balfour is the master of the house, and treat him with respect." So I assured him that I would try and began my journey to Cramond. So by the second day I was in Cramond. There I asked a man, "Can you tell me where the Shaw house is?" But the man surprisingly looked at me and said, "What, lad, stay clear of that house." And the next man I asked, he told me plainly, "It'll be none of my business, laddie, but stay away." And after 2 or 3 had given me the same look and answer, I began to think that there must be something strange about the Shaws. Then I found one gentleman and asked him, "Can you tell me, sir, what kind of man is Mr. Balfour of the Shaws?" So his negative reply also did not serve my purpose. It was sundown when a woman stopped. I hurriedly went to her and asked about the Shaw's house. She then pointed out one big old building and said, "That is the house of Shaw's. Blood built it. Blood stopped the building of it. Blood shall bring it down." I said, "What?" She replied immediately, "Clouston." Yes, and if you see the master, tell him Janet Clouston has put a curse on him and his house. But I carried my father's letter, so I should not be feared and should not be stopped under any circumstances. So I reached that house and knocked on the door, but my knock was ignored. Then I pounded the door angrily. That might have alarmed the housekeeper, as I saw an old man suddenly appeared at the window with a loaded gun and told me, "This is loaded. What do you want?" I replied, "I have come with a letter to Mr. Ebenezer Balfour of Shaw's. Is he here?" "It is a letter of introduction." The old man disgustedly asked, "What? Who are you?" I answered, "They called me David Balfour." Upon hearing my name, the old man was quiet and then politely asked, "Is your father dead?" Much surprised at this, I found no voice and stopped and stood staring. Perhaps he felt my condition and said, "Yes, he'll be dead, no doubt, and that will be what brings you here." Then there came a great rattling of chains and locks, and as the door slowly opened, the old man came out and told me, "Go into the kitchen and touch nothing." The burned up fire showed me the poorest room I ever put eyes on. In the kitchen, I found only a table, a chair, a bowl of oatmeal, a spoon, and a small cup of beer. On the table. But no, but no other thing. But no other thing in that great empty room. Henceforth, the old man came and said, "Let me see the letter." I replied, "The letter is for Mr. Balfour and no one else." The man said, "And who do you think I am?" "Your father was my brother. Little as you may like me, David, I am your uncle. And you are my nephew. So give me the letter and sit down to have some oatmeal." Though I did not like him, I gave him the letter. He bent it over the fire, turned the letter over in his hands, and asked me, "Do you know what's in it?" I said, "You can see for yourself, the seal has not been broken." He again said, "No, but you will have had some hopes, no doubt." I sternly replied, "I did hope I had rich relatives here to help me in my life, but I have some money. I look for no favors from you and want none that are not freely given." So he shook his head and said, "Hoot toot, don't get huffy with me. Davy will agree fine yet. If you had enough to eat, come away to your bed." To my surprise, he did not light a lamp but led me into the dark hallway, feeling his way, and showing me my room in darkness. He pulled the door closed, locking it from the outside. From inside, I requested, "Please, sir, give me a light to go to bed with." But his answer was, "Good night, Devi. I'm afraid of fires." The room was as cold as a well, and the bed, when I found it, damp and cold. I then thanked myself that I had brought my bundle and blanket with me, and I slept on the floor. And at the first light of the day, I could see the whole room, and I discovered that it was a fine room at one time. 10 years or perhaps 20 years ago, hearing my shouts, my uncle let me out and led me back to the kitchen. Have your breakfast, he said. I'll give you anything in reason. Looking at the breakfast, I felt that he was a real miser, a person who loves money and never spends it. Then at the end of our meal, he told me, Davy, you've come to the right place when you came to your uncle Ebenezer. I have a great love for the family and I mean to do right by you. Meanwhile, no letters, no messages, no kind of word to anybody, or else you'll have to leave. I felt insulted and angrily said, Uncle Ebenezer, I would have liked have you know that I have feelings. Show me the door and I'll go. Later in a room next to the kitchen where he told me to go, I found a great number of books huddled in a shelf. I took out one book and saw my father's handwriting in it. It was to my brother Ebenezer on his 5th birthday from Alexander. Seeing this, confusion arose to my mind whether my father was older brother or younger. To quench my thirst, immediately I went to my uncle and asked him straightforwardly, was my father older or younger than you, uncle? Or were you twins? But he fired and said roughly, what makes you say that? And suddenly grabbed me. But I resisted him and told him sternly, take your hands off me. Immediately he became quiet and said, you should not speak to me about your father, Davy. That's where the mistake is, I asked. What do you mean? He was all the brother that I have ever had. And I'll say no more, replied my uncle. So that was one book for you, Kidnapped. R.L. Stevenson there, one of the very earliest books I have read in school, in fact, and it is a truly interesting one, written with a lot of depth. If you get hold of it, you can read it, and then I can analyze it for you sometime here with summaries, question and answers, quotes explained, etc. There are other books that are equally interesting too, like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer's, books that most young men and boys would enjoy. Girly books are like Little Women and Jane Eyre, things like that. And Wuthering Heights and Rebecca are all, of course, classics. And all of these books, summaries can be provided. We can do a bit of reading here, a bit of summaries, question and answers, book discussions, some of the quotes from each of them, and have it explained. So a lot of potential is there in English literature and their stories and novels. And you can, doing this, you can improve your English as well as do it in an interesting way by getting an in-depth knowledge of different books and their lessons that they give for life as well, from the characters' experiences. So see you again tomorrow at 8 p.m. here.